The lazy Prio! We've all had that feeling. You've just logged into WoW, checked who's online and maybe ran around your capital city for a few minutes, and then it hits you. You're not even sure why you're online. You don't feel like progressing your character and the thought of spending hours wiping in a raid makes you feel sick. I've had this feeling more times than I can remember, and it's usually down to being really burnt out with the game, which is fine. If you do anything for long enough, you're eventually going to get burnt out, but how can you mitigate this feeling so you can get back to enjoying the game as normal? In this video we're going to talk about a few things that I generally do to deal with World of Warcraft burnout, as I'm sure it's something that you guys are going to have to deal with sooner or later. Taking a break. This is the most common and obvious way to deal with burnout. Just stop playing the game for a few days or weeks until you start to feel that urge again. This is something I've done many times even after the launch of 6.2. My advice would be to set yourself some goals when you return though, otherwise you'll just be running around not knowing what to do. My goal for Warlords of Draenor is to make sure I've got a caps character of each class, each with a cool looking transmog and relatively decent gear ready to go into the next expansion. If I manage to do that, then I'll work on capping their professions and earning a little bit of gold. If you're into PvP, you can set yourself a goal of achieving a certain arena rating or earning the PvP mounts. If you're a raider, you can set yourself the goal of getting the raiding achievements as well as clearing the recent raid tier on a difficulty that you're happy with. Setting yourself goals is important in anything you do as it gives you a feeling of purpose and something to work towards. Reroll classes. So this is something I've done very recently after returning to WoW. Throughout the majority of Warlords I've been playing my druid either as Resto, Feral or Balance in both PvP and PvE. And for the most part I've had a great time, but I got to the point where I wanted to try something different, something with a totally different playstyle and fantasy. In the end I got inspired to try out the Frost Mage after watching some high rated players show just how much fun it can be if you play it correctly. Sure enough I got it to max level and went through the class's learning process all over again, and I have to say it was a lot of fun. Just going into BGs and seeing myself improve each game was really refreshing, and it was nice to try something with a totally different playstyle. When you find a new class that you enjoy to play, you'll find yourself logging in just to have fun and practice. This is something that wears off over time once you feel like you've mastered the class. For the past 2 weeks I've found myself logging in, even if it's just to do 1 or 2 BGs before logging off, just to have a bit of fun on my new class. It's added a much more diverse feel to my WoW gaming time. Try other games. Now this may sound like something you would generally do if you were trying to quit WoW, but it's also a great way to help with burnout because it can remind you of the things you enjoyed about WoW in the first place. There's a bunch of decent MMOs out there at the moment that are either buy to play or free to play, such as Elder Scrolls Online, Terra, Guild Wars 2 and Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn. Any of these games can be played as a good alternative to WoW. I myself have been playing a lot of other MMOs recently, some I've loved and others not so much. Has that stopped me from logging into WoW every day? No, because I often find I enjoy those games for other reasons as to why I like WoW. It's healthy to play other games in general. If World of Warcraft is the only game you play, then you're more likely to be upset when there's a feature added to the game that you dislike, or your main class goes through changes. Also, if WoW does eventually die like many people have preached in the past, then at least you'll have something to fall back on rather than feeling lost when you sit down at your PC. Oh, and one final thing, if you want something fun to do whilst waiting in queues, download a game called Rocket League off Steam. It's incredibly simple and fun, and it's just become my favourite way to kill time. Do something different. So most of us that play WoW tend to get stuck in the rut of only doing a certain type of content, such as PvP or raiding. It can sometimes be a good idea to just try something different. Maybe try roleplaying for a week, soloing raids, achievement hunting, doing pet battles, or just exploring places you've never been to before. At the very least, doing some of these things will give you something to do whilst waiting in queues. Do some WoW challenges. We all know how much easier things like leveling have become in comparison to the early days, to the point where there's no difficulty at all. Well, something you could try and do is the Iron Man challenge. This is where you try to level an alt to max level without dying wearing only grey armour. This means no greens, blues or heirlooms. See how far you can get. You could also join a level 60, 70 or 80 raiding guild that runs legacy raids. Usually they allow you to gear up wearing heirlooms, but once you're at the appropriate level you need to take them off and gear up properly. It won't feel exactly like it did in the old days, but it's the closest you'll get without playing a private server. Another thing you could do is level up a new character and read all the quest text. Most of us skip reading quests and miss out on a lot of story. This could be a good way to become more invested into the storylines of zones and expand your knowledge of the lore. Finally, you could make a twink. You could be that guy that I rage about when doing battlegrounds before max level. Making a twink will allow you to dominate battlegrounds with little or no skill, so if you suck at PvP and want to feel like you're good, then this could be something for you. Hang out and make some friends. Gaming is generally a lot more fun when doing it with friends as you're sharing an experience together. I'd always recommend joining a guild to anyone that doesn't know anyone in real life that plays WoW, as you can meet some really cool people with similar interests to you. The best place to find friends in WoW is obviously on the World of Warcraft forums or the WoW Reddit page, because everyone is super friendly and won't judge you one little bit. Just make a post saying, "Does anybody want to be my friend?" and make sure it's all in caps so people know you're being serious. Then all you need to do is sit back and relax as you become Mr. Popular. In the highly likely event that this doesn't work, I made a video some time ago that goes through all the different places you can look for a guild. So that's it for this video, guys. If you have any advice on dealing with World of Warcraft Burnout, then please leave a comment below, as I'm sure it'll come in handy between now and the next expansion. If you enjoyed this video, then consider giving it a like, as it always helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.